Welcome back, mommies. It is the moment. It is Friday. We narrowly escaped World War III, I guess. Last time we saw you, we were like, I don't know if we're about to take out a civilization, according to a tweet. But we're here on the other side, and we're very happy to see you. I'm always here with my pal, Meredith Lynch.
It's good to see you.
Always good to see you. Although the mommies need to know, Meredith and Rebecca spend a lot of time together. Our Fridays here with you are a culmination of like a marathon of text messages, of dinners, of voice memos. Like, you girls are talking.
We are talking a lot. And I think, it's so funny. Somebody wrote on my, in response to a video about like mom groups and friendships and all this kind of stuff and cliques, they were like, oh, I don't want to meet any new friends for the rest of my life. And it was so interesting because I think I'm the opposite of that, because I was thinking about this the other day, not prompted by this comment. I was like, there are people who I'm going to love in my life that I've never even met yet.
Yep.
And that's, I think when people sometimes ask me like, oh, how have you had like some semblance of success? I think I've been really open to like meeting new people and getting to know new people.
This is something that I've always really admired about you. I mean, I've only known you for a year, but I've always, from the moment I met you, you were like such like open to possibility. You were just like open to throwing possibilities and like try things in a way that I think sometimes I can be a little bit of like a perfectionist and be like, well, but it has to be like this. And how about this? And I've always admired that about you.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Well, I think we complement each other very well.
We do.
And I think we have a lot to talk about today. What are we talking about today?
Okay. We're going to recap quickly what happened with Iran. Like I said, last time we saw you, things were really, really tense. Things continue to be tense, but perhaps less tense. Then we're going to talk about my perhaps all-time favorite story, which is that Melania Trump came out yesterday in an unprompted, extremely rare press conference to say, never heard of Jeffrey Epstein, don't know him, don't care about him. And we're going to talk to our pal, Molly McPherson, about that. Then we're going to talk about a story you're obsessed with.
I'm obsessed with it.
Yeah. So the coach of the Patriots, like, sports a lot better than I am, so correct me, was caught perhaps having an affair with a reporter at the New York Times who covers him. And now they've sort of like spiraled into like, he said, she said, no, we're not. We are. And we're going to talk about Molly about that PR fallout. Then we are going to talk to Representative Rob Hernandez of New Jersey, a fellow tri-state, about ICE generally, but we're really interested. It's ramping up here in California because of Coachella. So we're going to talk to him about a broad swath of things. But let's start with Iran. I guess, like I said, last time we talked, we were waiting for this 8 p.m. deadline. Then Trump comes out and says, at like, I don't know, maybe like an hour to deadline, he did exactly what I kind of thought he was going to do. He said, oh, actually, we're going to have a 2-week ceasefire, and called off the carpet bombing of Iran. But what's not clear is what actually is in that ceasefire. Like, we're hearing all of these different things. I don't even think there is a physical ceasefire from what I can tell. The Strait of Hormuz is still closed, which he is not happy about, despite that being one of Trump's key things that he said was like, oh, you have to open the Strait of Hormuz. It is not. And then one of the big points of contention over the agreement is that Iran says that Israel has to stop bombing Lebanon as part of the ceasefire. And Israel has gone forth and dropped hundreds of bombs in Lebanon since then. JD Vance talked about this during a stop to Hungary, of all places. I think we have a clip.
I think the Iranians thought that the ceasefire included Lebanon, and it just didn't. We never made that promise. We never indicated that was going to be the case. What we said is that the ceasefire would be focused on Iran, and the ceasefire would be focused on America's allies, both Israel and the Gulf Arab states. Now, that said, the Israelis, as I understand it, again, I'm supposed to get a fuller report when I get on the plane, have actually offered to be, frankly, to check themselves a little bit in Lebanon because they want to make sure that our negotiation is successful.
He's so inarticulate, and it's so like, what is happening exactly? I don't know.
So basically he's saying, yes, we had a ceasefire, but the ceasefire was never going to mean that we would stop bombing Lebanon, or that
that Israel would stop
bombing
yeah.
Lebanon. And, you know, the images coming out of Lebanon are absolutely heartbreaking. And I mean, we are supposed to get the Strait of Hormuz to open up a little bit, right?
I mean, supposedly, so now JD Vance is headed, they're going to do peace talks in Islamabad over the weekend. But like, in other words, it's a complete mess, you know? And like, thank God we pulled back from the edge of, you know, destruction, I guess. But, you know, to have this ceasefire just dangling, like what happens at the end of the 2 weeks? Iran has all of this leverage with the Strait of Hormuz. Why would they open it without Israel agreeing to stop bombing Lebanon? And like, I don't know, it just seems like it's a mess. But I think like this story is in some ways overshadowing it, because yesterday Melania Trump comes out and like nobody was expecting it. I can't explain to you how rare one it is for Melania to do these types of press conferences, but also like I don't know if a first lady has ever done a press conference that was like unannounced before. And so she comes out at the White House and gives this 6-minute.
Let's fact check that, because I have a guess of who would have done an unannounced.
Ooh,
press
interesting.
conference.
Okay, yeah, Vienna, if you don't mind fact checking. Okay, but I think it is at least very rare, if not never happens.
Right.
She comes out, gives a 6-minute speech, effectively saying, everybody is lying that I ever knew Jeffrey Epstein. Donald Trump and I met at a party and it was totally random. And the only way to get justice is for the survivors to testify in front of Congress. Thank you. It was like bizarre. It was, you know, also something that struck me is like Epstein has not been in the news because of Iran. Like I literally looked it up on Google Trends and it's like, so it's like, why did you bring this up now? And she doesn't do anything to defend Donald Trump. It's like all about her. And I think the whole Vienna says the only thing she's seeing is it's called rare. So I guess it's possible that other first ladies have done it, but it is definitely a move.
Yeah, it's very strange.
It's very strange. And now everybody is like, well, why would she do it? And why would she do it now? And I have theories. Molly McPherson is gonna jump
with
in
us today. Yeah. Everybody, y'all know Molly. Everybody knows Molly McPherson.
Everybody knows Molly.
Molly McPherson is a crisis communication strategist. She helps leaders handle the moments that can make or break their reputation. She's got 2 decades of experience. You know, she worked for FEMA during Katrina.
I didn't know that. Wow.
She's got that sharp, no nonsense breakdown, and she hosts the PR Breakdown podcast. She's built a large following for her hot takes on crisis PR in real time. My dad told me she was on an episode of Chronicle the other night, so you truly know she has made it. Molly McPherson, welcome to the show.
Oh my gosh, we love your father watching Chronicle WCVB. I love that, Meredith.
Do you know Chronicle?
No.
You would love it. It's like, oh my gosh.
It's Meredith, right? Boston Institution.
Well, I started my career at WBUR in Boston. So I know Boston media. Like I do know it, but I, like not enough. Yeah.
Oh, little BU. All right. Well, hello, ladies.
Hi.
Hello. We have so much to talk to you about. Everybody's so excited that you're here. First of all, we got to talk about this Melania coming out and doing a statement. What do you think it just signifies when a first lady, take the Melania out of it, but when a first lady comes out and does a press conference like that?
Well, a couple things. When you said, has any other first lady done this before? Who would have been the first lady to do it? I don't know.
What was your guess?
Nancy Reagan.
Oh,
no
way. Yes, they know to drugs. Yes, she seems like that type. But honestly, let's even start from the beginning. And I'm looking at this from a crisis management lens. Okay.
Sure. Right.
And technically wasn't a press conference.
Right.
There.
Yeah.
She just came out in a televised statement. So what you're saying sounds right. Like, when have we had a first lady come out with a televised statement? Trump already has said, I believe he told MSN Now, he was unaware that she was going to do this. So I looked at it like last night and I thought there are so many moves that are happening with this that I immediately had to post it in social media. And right away it lit up and everybody was, chatting about it, because this really is a trending story. Because what is going on? So I have theories.
Oh, give us a theory, please.
Well, I have to hear Rebecca's first theory though.
Okay.
You're very
Well, I mean, like, I was so excited to talk to you about this because you do exactly this, where you're like, you look at this and you're like, okay, what could somebody possibly want out of this situation? Like, I think that sometimes people look at me and they're like, I don't know, she just wanted to say people didn't know about Epstein. And it's like, okay, let's look at the landscape. Nobody is talking about Epstein right now, or not nobody, but it is certainly not the A headline right now. So she brought it back in. The only thing that I can see that is like starting to make sense is that Pam Bondi was supposed to be deposed this coming Tuesday for her handling of the Epstein files. Then this week, the DOJ came out and she said, well, she's not the head of the DOJ anymore, so she doesn't have to. And in Melania's speech, among other things, among also plugging her book, which I was like, okay.
I
Okay,
love
Melania.
it.
Right? I know. I was like, okay, Melania, you got to do what you got to do.
Not
The Trump
plugging her book, but using it as a first source for why she's being honest, quoting herself.
She was like, "Go have my book, Melania." I know, but I thought that she ended the statement by saying that the survivors should testify in front of Congress. To me, said there was some sort of shield for Pam Bondi. She was like switching, she was like changing the narrative to say, in fact, it's the survivors. And by the way, we interviewed Jess Michaels, who's an Epstein survivor, on our Tuesday show. The survivors came out and put out a statement and said, absolutely the fuck not. Like, leave us out of this.
Right.
So, like, I don't know if I have a like specific, this is why moment theory. Sometimes I do. I'm like, oh, this is what it is. But I think Pam Bondi is going to drop something. I think there's something to do with Pam Bondi not wanting to be deposed on Tuesday. I think something is going to drop. I think Melania is trying to get ahead of it. And I think she's trying to distance herself from her husband. I really do.
Yeah, I share a lot of that, Rebecca. And when I look at these news stories, I mean, certainly the two of you are coming at it from news. You're looking at it from a journalistic point of view. And I have the same ethics when I do it, but I'm looking at it strictly from crisis management because day in and day out, I work with clients. And the only way that I can be ahead of someone's crisis is if I can tell what's really happening. And I'm always looking at intent. Why did this person do this now? Timing, always huge. And you're always looking for agenda. And usually there's a gain. What's the gain in doing this? So I'm with you. And this one, I think there are so many. I don't think it's just one. So conventional wisdom online, everybody is saying a big story is going to drop. I think we all collectively kind of agree. Something's drop, right? Like, yeah.
She did it on a Thursday ahead of a Friday, which is when, if you work in news, the Friday afternoon news dump. If you are a 25-year-old working at WBUR in Boston, you're done at 4 p.m. And then all of a sudden the big news comes in and you're like, God damn it. That's when the big news comes in, 4 p.m. on a Friday.
I look at that as well, because I would look at the timing. It was Thursday afternoon at 2, which is not a dump. It still puts you in the news cycle and you're in the Friday news cycle. You're also in the weekend Sunday news cycle and you're there for Sunday as well for the political, talk shows, Sunday papers, which people are still reading. So that was intentional. We also know she didn't just do it on her own. It's not like she just said, I'm going to go to the room and start speaking. You had to set it up. You had camera, you had lighting, you had everything. So likely it was her team, her office that did it. Now, if they blocked out, Trump and everyone else, we don't know. I do think the Pam Bondi angle certainly is part of it, but I think it's really about timing and all of it together. I don't think Melania thinks about anyone other than herself.
I agree.
What she did was self-protection and coming out ahead of a story like this. And also, I don't know if you guys checked it out last night, like Trump was crashing on Truth Social.
Can we I just want to pull that because I had the same thing. It was like she went up, she did her thing, and then Trump was all of a sudden like Tucker Carlson, Candace Owen, Megyn Kelly. Like all of a sudden, he was like, I can't say I hate you, my wife, but he was like, I sure can say I hate Megyn Kelly. Crashing. Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah, this is a really, really interesting moment because Donald Trump has power due to a base. That's it. It's his base. That has been his shield. But now part of that base is becoming kryptonite to him. To lose Tucker Carlson, to lose, like I've never watched a full Alex Jones post in my life, but I watched the whole thing to see him turn on Trump. And And I'm sorry, Megyn Kelly, within 24 hours for her to flip-flop, I mean, I cannot stand it, right? I cannot stand it.
I know.
But anyway, loving this comeuppance too. But he's starting to lose his allies, and his allies are also part of establishing his base. And on Truth Social, so many people, I think it was the Washington Post did a story about all the people leaving. No, I'm sorry, New York Times, going against Trump on Truth Social on his own app.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. So there's a lot of people just coming out and saying, you're losing us. So we see, now we know when we look at human interaction, what's happening with Trump crashing, that means he's losing context, he's losing power, he's losing control of the narrative. So you do have that. So he's fighting the base. He's fighting the Pope. Meredith, my goodness. How do you, the juju, how do you,
I mean, like, that is direct to hell, if you ask me.
Yes, I'm sorry, Catholic juju. You would never do that. Never.
My question to you, though, is like, how do you think MAGA views Melania? Is she an asset? Is she a deterrent? Like, how do they view her?
I mean, honestly, if you think about it, wouldn't they view her with suspicion?
Right.
Right? Not fully trusting, because MAGA, they don't want immigrants in their world and their base, but they have to tolerate this and understand it. And then we have the Epstein files, which was, I mean, that was the first breach, right? That was the first fissure, was you're not coming through on the Epstein files. And Pam Bondi, Rebecca, to bring it back to that, she was there to be Trump's bulldog. She was there to protect him from Epstein, and she did not do it. That's why she got fired. She did not do it. So now that's another ally who's gone, and one by one, and they're saying that Kash Patel, now we're getting with the FBI, that's next. Donald Trump's wall of, you know, his wall, his shield, his moat, he's starting to lose it, his protection there. So back to Melania for a moment. I think it's everything that she's doing is a move of self-protection.
Yeah.
Everything is self-protection, and everything is always connected. So not only do we have Pam Bondi, we also have Michael Wolff and his case.
Right. I know, we got to get Joanna back on the show. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
You had Joanna Coles on your show?
Oh, Joanna Coles is my girl.
Oh, wow. Yes.
Yeah, I
Oh,
love
that's so
Joanna.
cool. Yeah, that case is coming up. He was able, because they tried to delay it and push it into federal court, so they would have to delay it. It's not working. So now Michael Wolff can depose. Now Melania has to be deposed. And now there's going to be more scrutiny about the relationship. And do we try this case in New York based on where Melania lives? And now more people are going to find out likely that she lives in New York and not in the White House, which is where she had this statement. So as you can see, there's so many dots around, gals, that we could go on forever about.
Molly is going to go live at noon to talk about this on her channel. We want to talk about one more story before we let you go, because Meredith is obsessed with this.
Yeah. Speaking of relationships that are getting scrutiny, let's talk for just a minute about Patriots head coach Mike Vrabel and New York Times reporter Diana Rossini. So obviously there were some photos that came out of the two of them at a resort in Scottsdale. And I think that their response was just as unhinged as Trump's. So honestly, I think here's the thing about this. Like, cheating happens and it's unfortunate. And you can't tell me that that is not an intimate moment. That's not two people in a crowded hotel lobby. Oh my God, it's great to see you. That's not that.
I don't think you and I have ever interlocked fingers in our goddamn life. You know what I mean? Like, that's interlocking fingers at a resort. Come on.
These are just pretty damning photos. Okay. Here's the other piece of it. They are two consenting adults. So, you know, I'm not condoning cheating. What I think is the story here that is much more interesting is the power structure here, which is that, like, if she was just like, oh, I'm like a random woman who like works in corporate HR versus I am the New York Times reporter who reports on the Patriots and I'm the head coach. So can you talk to us about like why this power structure is such a big deal in the PR world, and then also their unhinged responses?
Well, Meredith, we can start from hometown, right? Right. Mike Vrabel. I mean, oh God, like, we love Mike Vrabel. He wasn't supposed to do this. We survived the Jordan Hudson era, all New England Patriots fans, and Mike Vrabel was coming in like clean, exciting, whatever. This is very against brand. And it is creating, I think, a lot of problems on the inside. And you can see that in the response and what was happening. I'm with you. things happen. And I'll say, I had this conversation during the Patriots. Mike Vrabel's been dating his wife for a long time and, over 20 years. And usually when you get into that area, kind of anything can go. So I'm like you guys, I don't judge anyone on marriages. And there's been a lot of people online who say, and even clap back at me and Meredith, I'm sure they did with you as well, because I know you did a post on it.
Yeah.
Leave him alone. It's no one's business. Like, yeah, it is. He's a coach of the New England Patriots. You're damn right. It's our business. It's everybody's business. And she's a reporter, Rebecca, journalism ethics. Like, you
okay,
hot tubs with your sources, right?
I went on a rant about this yesterday because I feel like as a reporter, I spent so much of my career like asexualizing myself for fear of this exact narrative, because Hollywood likes to say that journalists, like women reporters, are, meddling and they sleep with their sources and they only get to where they get because they sleep with the senator and so I feel like I've held like a part of myself back to make sure that I don't do that. And so when I see women reporters do this, I'm like, you're hurting all of our abilities to do our job in a way that is respected,
Right. And it is unfortunate. She is getting a lot more scrutiny than Vrabel. So we don't like that from a female point of view. However, a lot of the stories about her and a lot of the clips about her have not been great. And so there is that. But to go right back to the beginning, Meredith, when we were talking about like some of the moves here, quickly what I saw, I'm always looking for intent again. And what are you trying to cover? And to me, it's so incredibly obvious, because their first response was a delegation response. They had to punt it to their friends. And Vrabel and Rossini, they canceled each other out. Because one sources had, we were with a group of friends. And then Rossini sources said it was a girls' hiking trip. And then someone didn't get the memo. And then, we're all together.
Yeah. Like, this is when I would lie to my dad and say like, we're all going to so-and-so's house. And then and then your friend would lie and then say, the parents, like, no, we got to be on the same page if we're going to create the
exactly. Exactly. Yeah. So that's when it really falls apart. And then probably got a lot of pressure from the New England Patriots, from Kraft. And he came out with the statement, and he did when I hear it, I go, ugh, it's when he had to demean people for thinking it's even a story. It's laughable. When anybody does that, they're showing contempt. And whenever there's contempt in a official response, I always think, there's something there. So
And you know what someone told me, and this is of course just gossip and hearsay, someone told me where they're standing in that thing where they're lovingly looking at the mountains, which I don't even do that with my own husband, but in this image someone told me that that's like a private patio.
It is. Yes, it is.
So it's not like, that's like, and they're like, you didn't see all the 6 friends around us. I'm like, listen, I see a lot in that photo. I don't see another human.
Exactly. And the 3 sources they had, eyewitnesses, they asked, did you see other people? And they said, no, it was him with a girl.
I'm surprised that the New York Times,
they're standing by her.
They're standing by her. And I kind of,
because it's the Athletic. I mean, it's the Athletic and they run it. So she's a New York Times reporter. So they have to. But they know.
Yeah. I'm surprised that they aren't like, we're looking into this. I feel like the New York Times, for better or for worse, has struggled with trust from its Gen Z audience specifically. And so I'm surprised that they're not like, we're looking into this. We hold our reporters to the utmost standards, and we're looking into it.
And Rebecca, they did the opposite. They came down hard. They came down really hard to say, how dare anyone even question this?
So honestly, too, like it's not worth it, girl.
Yeah,
That's
never
the other thing.
worth it.
It's not worth it.
Yeah, that's a good point.
She may fade out anyway, even though something doesn't happen right away. She'll probably fade out on this because she's a liability. Because how can you objectively report? She can't report on the Patriots.
Yeah, of course. The last thing I'll say is like Olivia Nutzi. It was like at first they're like, we're standing by her, and once it all quiet down, they're like, we're parting ways. So I could see them doing that so it doesn't become the huge story. But Molly McPherson, we'll have to have you back soon because this has been
fun.
I can't wait to see your live at noon and hear like a deep dive into all of your theories about what's going on with Melania, because we will be watching here on The Moment.
Oh, that's great. Well, ladies, it was so great seeing you. Thank you for inviting me. I would love to come back.
Yes, come back. Molly. Bye.
Bye.
Molly's so smart.
Wow, we are going from one to the other today. Boom, boom, boom. I'm going to have to get Representative Menendez take on all the gossip and hearsay coming out of the Scottsdale.
Yeah.
Was it Scottsdale? No, what's the other one? I don't know. Gabby's yelling in the booth. Is she yelling Arizona cities? What's like the cool one? It was the cooler city.
Tucson. Sedona.
No, Sedona. That's the cool one. That's the cool one. Anyway, let's get right into it. Representative Menendez represents New Jersey's 8th congressional district. He was first elected in 2022. He previously served as commissioner of the Port Authority of New York and New Jersey and is an attorney by training. In Congress, he serves on the House Energy and Commerce Committee and as vice chair of the Policy for Congressional Hispanic Caucus. Representative Menendez, welcome to the show.
Great to be with you both.
Thank you so much.
Good morning.
Do you have opinions on the Patriots coach having an affair?
You know, as a Giants fan, it's just great to see because it sort of like covers our dysfunction as an organization. So it's fantastic. I love it. I love to see it.
I was going to ask, what's the New Jersey football team? But I guess the Giants. It's a New York.
Giants, Jets. If you're in South Jersey, the Eagles. So we got like a whole mix by us. But I'm a Giants fan, and twice in the Super Bowl in my lifetime, we beat the Patriots. So all good here.
There you go.
You know what? I will say it once and I'll say it again. If the Patriots have no haters, I'm dead. And I'm from Boston, but like, I'm sorry. I'm an underdog queen and I have had just about enough. Yeah.
And you guys thrive on it. Like, you guys are uncomfortable winning championships. You guys like to be more upset that other people win championships than enjoying the fact that you win championships now. It's an awkward thing for Boston sports fans to be.
Well, here's the pivot that I'm going to make is last time that in California, we were talking about an ICE surge was around the Super Bowl that took place here. Now, Meredith is the person who pointed out to me this week, there's actually a surge of ICE around the Coachella festival that happens outside LA. And so we wanted to talk to you about some of the happenings with ICE, because in some ways it's fallen out of the headlines because of all the chaos in Iran. So I guess to start with, has anything changed since Markwayne Mullin took over DHS from Kristi Noem, or is ICE running exactly the same?
Yeah, exactly the same. But you're right. They've pulled out of very public spaces, and sort of the escalation that you saw in Minneapolis, Charlotte, New Orleans. So it's more low profile than those moments. Again, amidst all the chaos that's happening across the world, including with Iran. But we visit the 2 private detention centers in New Jersey, and they are continuing to round up people who have no criminal records. Last week when we were there was a pastor from Elizabeth, New Jersey, a pastor who was being detained at Delaney Hall. So they're continuing to tear families apart, continuing to tear communities apart across the country. And it's important for it to stay top of mind for folks across the country.
You have been visiting some of these detention centers, and there's not a lot of people who've been inside and getting to see this. Could you tell us a little bit about what you're seeing in there, what you're hearing in terms of what people are experiencing? Because I was just reading DHS put out a statement the other day saying everyone's getting a nutritious meal approved. It's actually above the caloric intake that people should be getting. So what are you hearing and seeing?
Yeah, well, everything that DHS and ICE says is bullshit. Like, I think I would just start there, right? Like, and just never believing what they say. So the 2 things I would say, one, I'll touch on the points about the conditions there. But first, again, because it's so important, in 2024, when Trump was running for president, he said, we're going to go after these violent criminals who are taking over our communities, right? And people got on board with that, and understandably so. But you look at ICE's own data, and the people being held throughout the country, the overwhelming majority have no criminal record. And the percentage of people being held there who have violent criminal records is a very small percentage, in the single digits, I believe. So increasingly, they are taking people from our communities who have been positively contributing from everywhere from New Jersey to California, and they're holding them here at these privately run detention centers. That's point number 1 that I think is really important, because it shows that Trump lied. And to my earlier point, DHS and ICE continue to lie about what they are doing in our country. Now, with respect to the conditions there, I can only speak to the 2 that I visited, Elizabeth Detention Center and Delaney Hall in Newark. The conditions are atrocious. Delaney Hall is a poorly ventilated place where there's about 800 detained individuals, and there's 7 full-time health professionals there on a daily basis. So you're looking at over 100-to-1 ratio of individuals to healthcare professionals in conditions where people are getting sicker there. You have healthy men and women who went into Delaney Hall and now are getting sicker there because of the conditions there. You mentioned the food and the caloric intake. Again, I visited the kitchen, and everyone that I've talked to has talked about, that they are, the food there is basically unedible, and they are losing weight. If they have a certain, health condition that requires a certain diet, it's not being met. And you have to remember, at Delaney Hall, it's a 15-year contract with the Geo Group. They are getting paid over $1 billion, and they can't ensure adequate health care and adequate food for the individuals being held there. Last thing I'll say is this is civilian enforcement, right? These people are not criminals. This is not criminal enforcement. So there should be equality there. My view, most of the people there should not be there at all.
I wonder, one of the things you mentioned just now was how Trump said that this was like, the worst of the worst criminals. And then something I noticed last night, this is really upsetting. Trump on Truth Social posted a literal snuff film. I watched a woman get murdered, and he had this crazy Truth Social post about how Haitian immigrants, this, that, and the other. My question is, he seems to like to do distractions. I feel like it's like, oh, look over here. ICE is terrorizing the civilians, and then it goes badly, and all of a sudden we're at war. And I think, with Iran going so badly this week, I wonder if he's turning his eye towards different things, saying don't forget ICE. And then also what's happening in Cuba. So anyways, all this to say is, what do you think? Do you think there's going to be a ramp up? And on to something? Is he going to try and ramp up rhetoric around immigrants again now that Iran has gone so terribly?
Yeah, he's going to try to find any issue that he can sell to the American people, because he's failing across the board. You see House Republicans are retiring in droves because they don't want to run on the record that they would have to run on come November. So it's the same thing for redistricting, gerrymandering, everything that they're trying to do to put their thumb on the scale of the November elections. They know they're failing the American people. And when you talk, my wife always tells me this when we have disagreements. She says, "You can't tell me how I feel." Right? Which is true. And you can't tell the American people how they feel. And the American people right now feel lied to. They feel resentful towards this administration. They feel like they had voted for an America First platform, and he's not putting Americans first, right? Across the country. And so people don't feel better than they did January of 2025. And that's the reality that Republicans are walking into in November. So I think he's going to search for anything that he can do to get on better footing. And I think after Venezuela, he thought Iran would look more similar to Venezuela than it has. And now there's a higher likelihood that we're going to have a forever war than a Venezuela situation. And that's what he's grappling with. So he's going to search for anything except the Epstein files. The Epstein files is a place he will never go back to. Right? Because
not if Melania has anything to do with it.
Melania is in the Epstein files. Trump is in the Epstein files. A whole universe of, the Trump supporters are in there. And so he will do anything to stay away from that. I think in his view, he'd rather the war in Iran go on than have the full disclosure of the Epstein files and have closure, or at least some sort of sense of closure for all the survivors.
Mm-hmm. Can we go back just for a second to the ICE detention facilities? I thought of something when you were talking about sort of them ramping up perhaps again. And the other thing I think we forget, because we're in LA, is that people are outside a lot more in the summer. And that's when we really saw it start to ramp up again.
That's
in the spring, summer of last year. It's everybody's outside. And I've read about how they've been taking people more from community spaces than ever before, in the history of the United States. But one of the specific things I wanted to ask you about is what is happening with this ICE facility that they want to build in New Jersey? What's the latest on that? They want to build this other one. And I actually pulled the plans for one in Georgia the other day. Which, believe me, it took some digging. And it was an 8,000 bed facility. And so I'm oof. When I see this, and now let's talk about this one in New Jersey, what the hell is the end game?
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't tell you, right? Because so the part of New Jersey that this is in is represented by a Republican in the House of Representatives, Tom Kean. Mm-hmm. It has an all-Republican, city council, town mayor, right? Everyone in Roxbury, New Jersey, largely Republican town, is against this facility, right? They're referencing it as like a processing center for 1,500 people. It's a commercial warehouse. There's like 4 bathrooms there. They would have to completely retrofit it to hold 1,500 people. They would have to completely change the infrastructure around it. It's just a terrible project. And even Republicans in New Jersey believe it's a terrible project. And so we've been fighting against it since it was a conception of the Trump administration. They're continuing to move forward with it. The one thing I'm hopeful that Secretary Mullen may consider is he said that he's going to go back and look back at a lot of these facility purchases that were made under the prior regime, under Secretary Noem. And that gives me some hope, right? Because they're paying twice market rate for a lot of these facilities, spending the $75 billion that Republicans gave them to do mass incarceration of individuals across the country. So we've led a statewide initiative to push back against it. We have thousands of signatures from New Jerseyans from every corner of the state, and we're going to continue to push back against it. But there's no need for it. Republicans don't want it, and my hope is that we're able to kill the project.
Go ahead. No, you go.
You're Cuban American.
Yes.
I feel like that's one of the next Trump sites he has his sights on. There's been a blockade against Cuba. The Cuban people have been facing rolling blackouts. What are you thinking about and watching as somebody who's descended from Cuban immigrants?
Yeah, listen, there's always the hope that, we would have a free and democratic Cuba. It's something that is, something that I'll always hope for the people of Cuba, to see what that looks like and feels like. What the reality is that, Trump is just looking on pieces in the Western Hemisphere and beyond and trying to take as many pieces as possible. And I think little Marco Rubio, right, Cuban American as well, is very invested in this part of the Trump global strategy. Venezuela was a precursor to it. And what you've seen, the situation that Cuba's in, is premised on them cutting off access and support from Venezuela. So now you've seen Russia take a larger role, right, and trying to once again support Cuba, recommit to Cuba, and that's a challenge for the United States. It goes back to sort of the beginning of the Castro regime, and having a then Soviet, right, presence in the Western Hemisphere. Having a Russian presence in the Western Hemisphere is not helpful to what we want to do here. So, I think it's definitely going to be in play. I think Trump is pretty clear about that. I think Rubio is completely on board. And one of the things that, for all that he has to deal with this president, he views as something that would be, legacy defining for him, especially as a Cuban American, especially from being from Florida. So how it all works out, I think is unknown. The Cuban regime is not backing down. Russia is intensifying its presence in Cuba, and that's going to complicate things. And the White House is still reeling from their lack of success in Iran. So, that's the reality. I'm going to be monitoring closely, and House Democrats are going to be involved in these conversations. But it's something that should be top of mind for folks.
Yeah, I think one of the things with Cuba is like we hear a lot of different things about what we should think about Cuba. Like people are always telling us like you should feel bad for them or actually leave them alone. And so as a Cuban American, what do you wish like people who maybe like Rebecca lived in Cuba? I've never been to Cuba. I guess that my question is like, what do you wish sort of the normies knew about Cuba?
Well, that the people of Cuba are struggling, right? And wherever you want to cast blame, whether you want to cast blame on the regime or you want to cast blame on American sanctions for the last several decades, that's separate and apart, right? Because I think either side would say these are the reasons that the Cubans are struggling are for A, B, and C. At the end of the day, Cubans on the island are struggling. Right. They have, their economy, their healthcare system, which was once sort of the pillar of the regime, is crippling. Their energy infrastructure, as you've seen the last several weeks, is in a really vulnerable place. And so I think what anyone wants is stability for the Cuban people. And I think you can have a difference of opinion in terms of how you achieve that. But what everyone should sort of be, as with any country, Venezuela, Cuba, et cetera, Iran, is you want the best possible future for the people of those countries, and specifically for me, for Cuba. And we can have differences in how we achieve that. But if people agree that that is the fundamental issue, the question is just how do we achieve it? That's a healthy conversation.
Yeah. Before we let you go, you are part of the effort to get Democrats elected into the House in 2026. One of the things that I think that we're seeing a lot is that Republicans have become the party of corruption, and like with Polymarket this week. And I'm wondering, your father was part of a big scandal, a big corruption scandal, was convicted of bribery and extortion. I'm wondering, as you think about getting Democrats back into power, how you're balancing those things for the Democratic Party.
Yeah, so I mean, we want to show people that we want to govern, do so in a way that meets the expectations of all Americans. And so, when I got to Congress, I sold all of my individual stocks. I was co-sponsor of all the pieces of legislation to ban congressional stock trading, and I think this is important. So Democrats need to be solid on that, and we should understand that people increasingly are more pessimistic about all elected officials. But at the end of the day, if we want to be the better brand for Americans and regain their trust, we have to lean in on all these issues, whether it's the predictive markets, whether it's our own stock trading, whether it's increased transparency, getting money out of politics. All of these things should be priorities for us, because if we create a better environment to do government, I think we can help restore trust in our processes, in our public institutions, especially when you're seeing what the Trump administration has done in the last 13 months. And so, you're right. Like, if we want to be critical of it, we have to make sure that we clean up our house first. And I think that's something that all Democrats are aligned on.
Representative Rob Menendez, we're so grateful you're here. Next week, I'm sure, is going to be busy. You guys are back in session. We're so grateful that you were here.
No, thanks for having me on. Hope to be on again.
We hope
We
to
would
have you
love to
again.
have you on again. Thank you so much.
Bye.
Have a great day.
All right. Take care. You as well.
I love meeting representatives.
So interesting.
Yeah.
I feel like I learned a lot.
Yeah, he's smart.
Yeah. I think that the ICE thing is just like, it's so present on my mind. And, these detention facilities, when I hear about what's actually happening in them, I actually last night, I'm working on something about private equity and ICE, and the ways in which these detention centers are, because they're being used, or helping private equity. And I found this really interesting article from a private equity firm being like, basically, to put it into layman's terms, they were like, we know that last quarter was not great, but the good news is the ICE incarcerations are really ramping up. This was February. And so we definitely, because they do the food service, we're going to see an uptick thanks to that. I was like, it's sometimes they say the quiet part out loud, because a lot of the times they're just like, we're just helping businesses grow. But then if you really dig into these documents, they're like, good news.
It's so craven. On CNBC, I believe, there was a clip going around. I believe it was CNBC, but where a reporter asked somebody are you bull or bearish on genocide? Is there going to be an upside if we carpet bomb Iran? It was just so craven. And yeah, when you just think of things in terms of money like that, I'm really excited to hear you talk about that.
I know. I'm just making sure I do all my due diligence.
Yes.
This is a private equity company that I have called on the phone before.
Good for you.
Yeah,
doing the real
call.
reporting. That's what a reporter does.
I'm scared to call and make a nail appointment, but I will call a private equity firm and be like, excuse me,
actually,
why isn't this on your website?
But you know what? Good. Somebody needs to freaking call them, because this is what they're doing. And I really do think I saw that video that Trump put up yesterday, and it is truly it is. I don't think it's gotten enough attention.
Well, I didn't know what snuff meant.
I learned that from a Bret Easton Ellis novel. Bret Easton Ellis.
You guys don't want to know what I thought snuff was.
Well,
I thought it was a spicy movie. I was like,
I mean, it is a spicy movie. It's just
terrifying. But not like that.
Not like that.
There's a lot of things I'm still learning.
Well, anyways, I saw that and I was like, he likes to do this. He's like, oh, everybody pay attention to this thing. It goes really badly. Oh, everybody pay attention to this thing. And it made me think.
Kim Kardashian releasing a sex tape. It does get you attention.
It does get you attention. Okay, speaking of which, what's having a moment for you?
Well, actually, I'm really excited. I'm going to be home next week. I'm going to Boston this weekend. I'm not going to tell you my travel plans because like then the paparazzi will show up at LAX. No, but I'm going home this week for a few different reasons. But one of the reasons that I'm going home is that I am like the speaker, the featured person.
That's so cool.
At this women's networking event.
That's amazing.
And so I'm really excited for it. I think that my family's coming, some of my family's coming, and I'm really looking forward to it. I feel really honored. And I was thinking about it last night. Like, you know, I was never like the strongest student, the smartest student. I didn't know exactly where I wanted to be in life. And like, you know, all things considered, I'm really happy with where I am and the things that I've achieved. And I don't know, I'm just really, really excited and honored that they're inviting me to do this. So yeah.
As you should be.
Thank
I wish that I
you.
could be there.
I know. Thank you. I have a killer Veronica Beard matching set that I'm wearing. No, it's not the pink one. It's the navy blue.
Oh,
the navy blue vest with these navy blue flared pants.
I
It's
know.
gonna look so fierce, you guys.
Yes, I co-sign this.
Yes. Anyway, what's having a moment for you?
Friday. You know what? It is crazy to me that we keep doing this. Like, it is crazy how close we got on Tuesday to like true, you know, like that is what could set off a World War III, is threatening to carpet bomb a country. And then it was just over. And then the next morning we woke up and had a Zoom at 9 a.m. And I just like, I can't believe we keep doing this over and over again, where it's like, we really are experiencing like a trauma. We like get pushed to the absolute edge of what we can take. And then because of capitalism, because of our programming, because we don't know what else to do, we just sort of like go about on with our lives. And like, it really struck me this week. I was like, that's crazy. Like, I remember after January 6th, like I remember watching it happen, and I remember like feeling like nauseous and like shocked. And then like an hour later, I was like, I guess back to work, you know? And like, we just sort of like moved on. And I don't know if I can take it anymore, you know? And this week was another one of those weeks where I was like, it's not normal or okay that we experience these like levels of like world ending chaos and then just go back to work the next day. So I'm excited that it is Friday and that we have gotten
you
through
don't have
another
to pay
week.
as much attention to the news for like, I don't know,
for like, I mean, like
24 hours.
I kind of always
I know
do,
you're always
but
plugged in.
I'm always plugged in. But like, I'm just glad to get to the end of this week. I love a Friday,
Ain't
and
that the
you and I are
truth?
gonna go get breakfast after this.
I know, we made a reservation, so everybody look out. We're going to the you guys, this coffee shop that I've been going to. You never know who you're gonna say.
You never know.
Maybe the hosts of the moment.
You never know.
Vienna says, don't say the name of it. Actually, you know what? You're not wrong. My dad would be like, be a little more careful about telling everybody your moves.
You know, it's funny. I like, you know how you like replay moments in your head where like, I got that wrong, where I asked Representative Jake Auchincloss where he'd be for spring break. And then you were like, don't dox him. And I was like, oh, right. This is not a Zoom call where I'm just like kicking it. So yeah, let's not dox anybody on this show.
You guys, thank you so much for hanging out. We will be back on Tuesday, not in the studio, but we can't wait to see you.
And if you're not a mommy yet, please subscribe on YouTube. It is really helpful. I can't tell you guys how challenging, how many barriers there still are to women reporting, talking about news and politics. And the only way we can push this project forward and keep having that voice out there, keep being a place where women feel safe to get the news, talk about the news, ask about the news, is with your help as subscribers. So please subscribe to The Moment, become a mommy, join us here. We'll be back on Tuesday. We'll be back on Friday.
Somebody wrote in and said, oh, she passed chemistry. How cool of her. What does that even mean? Who's that directed at? You or me?
I don't know.
Me or her? Me or her? Because listen, I barely passed chemistry. I think I got an E because my mom was dying that year, junior year. So chemistry, I mean, like that. Oh God, I got reported. Why did they report us for that? Who cares? It's been 20 years. Why did you flip-flop on politics? Stay consistent. Elizabeth Celeste is mad.
Bye,
Wait,
Elizabeth.
this is so funny. Who cares? It's been 20 years. What? 20 years of what? Since I went to college?
I don't know,
Oh, she
but I
does.
think she should subscribe to the moment.
I gotta know why she's going off on us. I'm so confused. I want to know who cares this much under Obama.
All right.
All right,
Bye,
sorry, we gotta go.
guys.
Bye, Elizabeth.